Emily and Jack seemed to have the kind of life most people only dream about. Jack was a husband everyone admired, hard-working, kind, and completely devoted to his wife. Together they were a team that balanced each other perfectly. From relaxed weekend brunches to cozy movie nights, Jack's affection for Emily was evident to everyone. Even after 5 years of marriage, he still looked at her with the same love and admiration he had on their wedding day. Jack believed he knew Emily better than anyone, confident they were soulmates in every possible way. But as time went on, small changes began to creep into their relationship. Emily, who once shared every little detail of her day with enthusiasm, started to pull back. Her laughter became less frequent, her gaze often averted, and her thoughts seemed elsewhere even when it was just the two of them. Jack told himself it was likely stress from her new, demanding marketing job, which required long hours and constant travel. Yet a quiet unease began to settle in his heart, a nagging feeling he couldn't ignore. The first real sign that something was wrong came on a Friday evening. Emily was heading out for a girls' night with her friends, and Jack encouraged her to enjoy herself. But as the night wore on and her text slowed to a mere trickle, a pit formed in his stomach. When she finally came home late, smelling faintly of cologne and looking more disheveled than one might expect from a simple evening out with friends, Jack felt a surge of suspicion. Still, he dismissed it, refusing to be the kind of husband who doubted his wife without reason. Emily had never given him a reason to mistrust her until now. 2 weeks later, the second sign appeared. Jack was helping Emily with the laundry when her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. Last night was unforgettable. When could we do it again? Jack's heart sank. He froze, the weight of those words hitting him like a blow. Taking a deep breath, he carefully set the laundry aside. Emily, noticing his tense expression, quickly grabbed her phone and swiped the message away, forcing a smile. "Oh, just a joke from a client at work. Don't worry about it." Jack smiled back, but his mind was already spinning. Doubt had firmly planted itself, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the memory of that message. From that point on, he began to see Emily differently. The little quirks he once adored now felt like clues to something deeper. He became quieter, more observant, watching her closely and picking apart every interaction. The truth came crashing down one rainy Saturday evening. Emily told him she had to work late again. Jack kissed her goodbye as usual, but as he watched her drive off, the weight of his suspicions became unbearable. On a sudden impulse, he grabbed his keys and followed her, keeping a safe distance. He trailed her car across town, his headlights off to remain unnoticed. Eventually, Emily pulled into the parking lot of a small, dimly lit bar. Jack parked a short distance away and watched as a tall man with dark hair and a broad smile greeted her by the door, laughing. Emily stepped out of her car and threw her arms around him. In that moment, Jack's heart shattered. He stayed in his car, unable to move, the scene unfolding like a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Emily and the man went inside together, their laughter ringing in his ears even from a distance. Jack sat there for a long moment, the image of their embrace seared into his memory. Eventually, he drove home, his chest heavy with betrayal and anger clouding his vision. Stumbling to the front door of his now empty home, a tempest of emotions swirled within him. Rage, sorrow, and disbelief, all dulled by a strange sense of numbness. He poured himself a drink, then another, the alcohol dulling his pain just enough for his thoughts to come into focus. He knew there was no salvaging his marriage. The woman he had cherished for so long had disappeared, replaced by someone he barely recognized. But instead of succumbing to anger or confrontation, Jack decided to handle betrayal differently. He resolved to ensure Emily felt the sting of her actions just as deeply as he had. Over the next week, Jack set his plan into motion with meticulous care. First, he quietly drained their joint bank accounts, transferring the funds into a private account only he could access. Piece by piece, he began packing his belongings, taking only what was necessary and leaving no indication that he was preparing to leave. His movements were deliberate, calculated, and entirely under the radar. He also arranged to work remotely, coordinated with his boss to make a smooth, discreet exit. His goal was to vanish before Emily had any inkling of what was happening. leaving her to face an empty house and the crushing weight of her own choices. The night before he planned to leave, Jack booked a suite at a nearby hotel, ensuring that Emily wouldn't be able to track him down. He knew she'd likely be spending the night with the man she had chosen over him, a fact that only strengthened his resolve. With Emily out of the house, Jack executed his plan. He left a single note on the kitchen counter, its message brief and pointed, "I know everything." Satisfied, he made a final sweep through the house. The once warm home they had built together now felt like an echoing void, stripped of any signs of his presence. Closing the door behind him, Jack left a hollow space that mirrored the emptiness in his heart. At the hotel, he poured himself a glass of whiskey and sat in silence, his eyes fixed on the clock. He imagined the moment Emily would return, the confusion that would wash over her, followed by panic when she realized the extent of his departure. He hoped she would feel at least a sliver of the pain she had inflicted on him. At dawn, Emily stumbled to the front door, the faint scent of another man's cologne clinging to her clothes. She called out for Jack, expecting him to be asleep upstairs, but silence answered her instead. Turning on the lights, her eyes fell on a note sitting on the counter. The three simple words sent her heart racing. Desperately, she searched the house, her panic growing with each empty closet and half-vacant drawer she opened. Even their wedding photos were gone, as if Jack had erased every trace of their life together. Her chest tightened as she dialed his number, only to be met with voicemail again and again. Her frantic messages, pleading and tearful when unanswered. Jack had already left, both physically and emotionally, far beyond her reach. In the days and weeks that followed, Emily's attempts to contact him grew more desperate. She called his friends, reached out to his family, and even showed up at his workplace, only to learn he had taken a remote position and was no longer in the area. Every unanswered call and unreturned text chipped away at her composure, leaving her drowning in regret. Meanwhile, the thrill of her new relationship quickly wore off. The man she had chosen over Jack didn't live up to the fantasy, and the excitement faded in the harsh light of reality. Alone, Emily was left to face the consequences of her choices, haunted by the life she had thrown away. Jack, on the other hand, began to rebuild in a new city, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. He created a fresh start. Slowly but surely, he found peace and purpose far removed from the shadows of his failed marriage. Reflecting on the past, Jack felt no bitterness, only a quiet sense of triumph. He had given Emily the freedom she seemed to want, but in the end, she had imprisoned herself in regret and loneliness. Jack realized that sometimes the greatest act of revenge isn't retaliation. It's moving on,